Ever since I first ran in the Anta C202 I started thinking about speed trainers. And I have a few of these category of shoes, and I wanted to sort of give an overview of the four shoes that I think most fit into that category that I personally own, and discuss the category in more depth, as well as use this as an opportunity to compare the Anta to a few different shoes that I like and some that I don't totally like. Heaviest shoe to the lightest shoe, and that means we're starting with the Hoka Mach X3. This is sort of a speed trainer. It is a max stack, uh, dual density foam or dual foam setup, plastic plated trainer, right? It goes pretty quickly. At least when it was early on in its life. It was designed to be a quicker, higher stack option in the plastic plated trainer range of shoes, right? So it's around 270 grams. The top layer is PIBA, the rear layer is, or like the back of the shoe is EVA. So the PIBA is the orange part, and it does stick out at the back, you could see there. And so it does run the full length of the shoe. When I first got this, it was buttery smooth, really, really nice ride, and was reasonably good at picking up the pace, but also accommodated going slower. Recently, after putting around 140 miles on it, it's sort of pancaked the PIBA. The PIBA no longer really does anything. It might as well not be there. And it creates this sort of higher drop sensation with the EVA in the back and then the PIBA in the front. And it just seems like the shoe is a little bit uh askance, if that's the right word. And when I first got this, yeah, I did really enjoy it. Over time, I found things that I like more, but it does fit into that like slower end of the speed trainer category. Would I be doing, track workouts in this? No, but I have a lot of shoes and I would probably do most of my track workouts in either the Streak Fly 2 or the Takumi Sen. Like if I have those two shoes in my rotation, those are what I'm using for track workouts. So any speed work for the purpose of this video could be referred to as something that's off the track, and that's like tempo runs, yeah, just like pace pickups, generally pace pickups, faster daily runs, things of that nature, not necessarily um what you would think of when you think of track work. So no 200s, 400s, 800s, even kilometer repeats. I would choose something else to feel a little bit faster. So that's an overview of the Hoka Mach X3. The next one I want to talk to you about is a wild card in this list. It is TYR Valkyrie Speedworks. It's even called the Speedworks. This is about 250 grams. And yeah, it has a plastic plate in here, and as a relatively, like, one of the remarkable things about this shoe is it has a pretty rigid heel counter, but it does make for some excellent lockdown in the shoe. Um, the upper was white once, and the midsole is this really nice beaded PIBA. It's, I believe, the same PIBA that's in the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, I want to say. It was the same foam as the Saucony shoe at the time that this released. So that was a while ago now. But if you've been in the shoe market for a while, it's that like styrofoam feeling PIBA. It's really great stuff. And I actually just ran in this today. I ran in both of these today, this in the morning and this in the afternoon, because I knew I was making this list. And this was a joy to run in again. I haven't run in this in a couple of months now, and yeah, I really enjoy the TYR Valkyrie Speedworks. There's not much more to say than that. It's very firm, almost as firm as the Anta C202 or the Anta Hill Sprint. This is a good speed trainer. I might even take this for like kilometer repeats, although again, I have more shoes that I would reach for before this just instinctively, but this would not be a bad option. And this is often on sale for like $100 or something. I didn't pay full price for this. I paid like probably close to $100 a while ago. This is relatively old. And now we could talk about the Anta, and then I have one more that's sort of a speed trainer afterwards, but this is the Anta C202 It's they're positioning it as a speed trainer, but it does actually have, instead of a plastic plate, a carbon plate nestled in these hot dog bun foam. It's not really hot dog bun foam, but it is split right here in the midsole. And sorry that it's dirty. I just realized that. But yeah, Anta C202 I've had 2 runs in this so far, so not like a breadth and depth of knowledge, but about 30 miles between those 2 runs, so relatively good. And I have put this through a wide variety of pace ranges already, so from pretty slow through hill sprints. I actually got this up to the fastest pace time, briefly, that I've ever seen Garmin tell me about, which was a 4-minute mile. Obviously, like that was during hill sprints, so I wasn't maintaining that pace for any period of time, but that was shocking to me when I first saw it yesterday. So yeah, Anta hill sprint, call it, is really dense foam, like extremely dense and extremely firm foam, even firmer than the TYR Valkyrie Speedworks. Even it feels underfoot, it feels even more rigid. This is something we could do on all of these, actually. Let's get a good back-to-back. This actually is, this was not always this flexible, the Mach X3. That came with time. Well, I remember when I first got it, it was just indestructible. And kind of the same with the Speedworks. This is flexed. This is more malleable than when I first got it. And then there's one more shoe in this list, but we'll get to that. This kind of like specs-wise outstrips everything on this list because of the carbon plate, and it has 2 different layers of nitrogen-infused foam. I'm guessing that's a TPEE. I'm not 100% sure because, you know, Anta doesn't list that anywhere on their spec sheet that they use for the US site. But if anybody knows for sure if this is a TPEE, please do let me know. Yeah, this is, I never talked about the drops on the other one, but I'll circle back to that. This is 3630, I want to say, and or 3428. It's 3428, which is pretty low. I mean, mid 30s down to high 20s is sort of standard for the category. I think this would be on the lower 50th percentile for the category. But yeah, this I've loved this since I have run in it twice. I mean, it's 2 runs, but both went really, really well, and I really enjoyed this shoe. Finally, we have the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low. This is actually probably the most stiff and rigid out of all 3. I thought it was going to be the Anta. Yeah, this is a little slightly more flexible, which does surprise me. It could be that this has a little bit more foam in the midsole and like the midfoot bump area. This is positioned as a carbon racing shoe in Mizuno's lineup, although that's all getting shaken up at the beginning of next year, which is basically now when all of the Hyperwarp shoes come out. The Pure is already out, and they're going to take over where this left off. And I like this shoe a lot. It's really great. It has a full coverage rubber outsole, which is wild for a carbon racing shoe. And I say air quotes because this is actually kind of plastic. It's a little misleading. It's like carbon infused into the plastic, which I don't really know what that means. I didn't even try to know what that means because it kind of sounds a little marketing materially, and it sounds like this pretty much has a plastic plate. But the function of a carbon fiber plate, I've talked about this before on the channel, is to maintain rigidity and stabilize a super foam. And I think that the plate in this does that relatively well. Now, this is a softer PIBA, so it's a little bit more explosive and chaotic as a foam than the other shoes on this list. And it's fitting because this is positioned as a carbon-plated marathon racing shoe, right? So it's, you know, it's supposed to be more energetic than the other ones, but it's sort of, I find that to be a drawback in some ways for this. And so then it gets to the question of why am I even really including it on this list? Because this is sort of a plastic plate. That's one reason. The second reason is that I would never race in this shoe, unfortunately. I think it's just a little too chaotic and loose loose in the foam for me, which is a lot of fun. It's so much fun to run in, and I enjoy running fast in it. And I wouldn't do any track workout in it. So it slots into the same category for those kind of two reasons. Like I wouldn't go on the track, I wouldn't race in it, but I love to run quickly in it. So that's why it's on this list. I'm going to go one by one and make a bold statement at the outset that I think the Anta C202 is like the killer speed day shoe. I think it's better than everything on this list at being a speed day shoe. And yeah, that's sort of why I wanted to make this list in the first place, is to showcase just how much I really like this so far. And of course, this is all subject to continuous testing, and maybe this goes dead early on into its life. Maybe it probably won't because of how dense the foam is. But speaking of something that went dead in its early life, the Hoka Mach X3, yeah, I complained about it all day today on the run. You'll probably have already seen that video. If not, you could check the previous video that I released on this channel. It was actually retiring the Hoka Mach X3. And yeah, it was great at first. Let me just put it that way. It was really good and really smooth at first. But the fact that the PIBA in the top layer of this shoe deteriorated so quickly just really bums me out, kind of, as far as like product design and the way that, I don't know, you can make your shoes more durable. And that is a lot of what the talk at TRE was about this year. Just from watching the coverage, it seems like a lot of brands are really trying to step up durability, although I didn't necessarily see that from Hoka, who specifically struggles in that area. But how do these two shoes differ anyways? Well, first of all, this is like 41, I believe, in the heel, so it's a lot taller. The standard EVA is dense, which is comparable to the Anta, but it's not, it's like really dense in the heel and then really airy and lively in the forefoot for the PIBA. So two very different characteristics of foam in this package. This is more uniform. It says dual density on their marketing material for the top layer and the bottom layer being slightly firmer. I can kind of see where that might be the case in the step-in feel, but once you're on the move, the foams work harmoniously in the Anta, where at the beginning of life for the Mach X3, the foams worked harmoniously for this shoe. Not so much anymore. So between these two, yeah, I mean, I loved this at first, but it's not really the speed day shoe for me anymore, and that's why I retired it. It's also lower on the pace range than the Anta C202, and that's just, it's heavier. It's like 270 grams versus this, which is 225 grams. I think I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah, so this would be for slower runs. You could even theoretically do recovery runs in it. I've done recovery runs in the Mach X3. I know that's weird, but it also takes the role of a super trainer, kind of, in my eyes, where it blends between being a plastic plated speed shoe and a super trainer. If you like maximum stacked things and you have more of a heel landing, I still think this could be a good option for people. I just happen to land so aggressively on the forefoot that this is like, it just dies too quickly. It's not worth whatever it was. It was like $190. That's crazy. That's what it cost, I think, or 180, but both are high for 142 miles on the Hoka Mach X3. So especially when the Anta, if you're talking about price, is 130 bucks, right? For carbon plate in a super foam shoe with pretty much full rubber coverage on the outsole, except at the way back. But you really wouldn't be landing on that part of the heel at the back. That would be pretty weird. Okay, so that's Mach X3 done. We're going to scoot on over to the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low. It's 220 grams, so it's actually slightly lighter than the Anta, and on foot, it kind of does feel it. And it's not so much the 5 grams that you're feeling there, but I think the density of the foam in the Anta it lends it a more sturdy atmosphere. It's like a sturdier vibe to it, which is great. I mean, I really like that about this. It gives Adios Pro 3 all day, except it has a good upper on it. And this doesn't have a great upper on it, the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low. It's not my favorite, at least. It's not terrible. But these are really very different in the way they apply their energetics. The Anta is extremely stable, and the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low is definitely not so stable. But it'll put more of a smile on your face, I think, than the Anta. I think the Anta is a tool, a weapon, just like harsh, kind of, maybe not quite harsh, but like, yeah, it's firm. It's firm for people that like firm shoes. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. This is a firm shoe. And this is very soft. So their characteristics, the way they apply the energy to the road, couldn't be more different. And the type of work that I would do with them differs because of that. I would want the Mizuno on like a very clear day without any like, sharp turns in my route, no rain on the ground, ideally. Uh, yeah, and I would want it to maybe be, I don't know, since this is new, the Anta is new, I have some recency bias towards it. I really want to be running a lot in this now. And there's some fiddly fit issues with the upper on the Mizuno. So it's hard to differentiate when I would necessarily take them for a run, like over each other. But for sure, for very, very fast, the top end of speed, it's the Anta all day. I think that this can hold its own in terms of stability with the Takumi Sen. And I mean, that might not be designed to be a stability shoe, of course. It's a Takumi Sen. But for me, the Takumi Sen 11 is one of the most stable shoes in my rotation because it has such a wide platform and it just feels, with a lower stack and lower profile, it feels sort of like a Ferrari. It's very planted on the road, and the Anta gives that a little bit as well. So I could get on to the higher end of speed in the Anta than in the Mizuno. But this still feels good at slower paces, so it's a really good shoe. TYR Valkyrie Speedworks. So this afternoon, the run that I just had in the TYR Valkyrie Speedworks, if you can find a pair for $100, I say you just go buy it. I mean, it can be often even cheaper than the Anta. This is like a newer shoe. It's only a couple months old. So I'm sure that this will go on an even steeper discount at some point in the future, right? It's a lower cost shoe in general, but if we're comparing like apples to apples, I bet you could find the TYR Valkyrie Speedworks cheaper. And if not now, then in the future, you probably will be able to, especially since I would imagine TYR would make a V2 of this in the coming year. I didn't see anything about that on the TRE coverage that I was watching, and I followed that relatively closely. I didn't see anything from any of the people that I was following there, and I watched like 3 or 4 different coverage streams. So yeah, we'll see, right, if there's a Valkyrie Speedworks that comes out, the sequel to this. I will pick that up if there is. The one thing to note on this shoe is it fits short by a half size. The toe box is fine, but no, it's short. So go up a half size. I mean, I don't recommend that lightly. Go up a half size. It was a mistake to get this in a 9.5. And also, this is a 10 versus this being a 9.5. The Anta is a 10, and the TYR is a 9.5. I don't think I actually needed to get the Anta in a 10, but where that's relevant to the conversation is the Anta probably would have been the same weight as the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low, because this is a half size bigger than what I had the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low in as well. And they're only 6 grams apart, so they probably would have equated. But yeah, for all of the speed trainers that I own that fulfill this purpose of faster runs that aren't on the track, um, these are the two that I would be taking out of this whole list. It's really hard to say between the two because the every time I run in the Speedworks from Tier, I really enjoy it, and it's just a little underrated because Tier is just this year breaking into. I mean, last year a little bit. This is a last year shoe, maybe even from 2023. I can't remember, but they're sort of gaining traction in the running space with the Maverick this year. And so, it might just be that this is not so much in the conversation because it's not so much in the conversation. And neither is the Anta though. So if you take these at both what they are, just choose. You need to feel them, I think, to see which one you're going to like more. The underfoot feel is different on both of them. The feeling of beaded PIBA, this dense beaded PIBA, is always really springy. It's like a mattress spring almost, really bouncy. And I like it. It's also firm, as a slightly different firm characteristic to the Anta. The foam in here is much more Light Strike Pro, like really dense TPE. I say this is even denser than the Adios Pro 3 and firmer as well. And we'll see. Maybe it'll break in. Even the second run in this, it felt a little softer than the first run that I had in this shoe. But that's it. That's my the take on speed trainers that are in my rotation. I've really been enjoying the Anta C202 so far, and if you haven't seen my full review on that, my first run review on that, it'll probably give you a ton more information on what type of decision to make if you're thinking about picking it up for $130. So with that, I appreciate your attention, and as always, stay in motion.